The right shall come to bear, illuminate the signs, the exiles shall be there.
Welcome to the Explosion Network's review discussion of SuperGiants Pyre, the latest game from the studio who does weird, wonderful games that mostly have lots of voiceovers and cool, quirky characters with wonderful art. Me and Jono have played. Both have platinumed the game, right? You platinumed it yesterday?
Correct.
Yes. Both have platinumed it, so we've both put a lot of time, or enough time to at least platinum the game. And we both really like it. We can say that from the outset, I'm pretty sure. So we're just going to go through, do a bit of discussion over it. Spoiler-free, we'll talk about the story a little bit, but in a spoiler-free manner. But we're not going to go too deep into it. But if you are really afraid of any kind of story spoilers, then I guess avoid the video. But nothing too crazy. So just to start with general impressions, like what you thought going into the game. Originally, I looked at it, thought it looked bat crazy. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm about to be playing, some weird basketball game. I had no idea if I was going to like it or hate it, but I just took the leap, brought it. I really love it now. What was your like going into it?
Yeah, it was off my radar completely until it was out, basically. It wasn't... I feel like maybe because it's an indie game and maybe because there's a few other big things happening, it wasn't being talked about a lot. It wasn't being previewed and heralded as, here comes this game that's on its way. It's hitting in, August or whatever. Oops. But yeah, like once the reviews were up and they were positive, I was like, this is something that's caught my eye. And the description of it as I guess
basketball,
an RPG meets NBA Jam, I was like, okay, this is something I got to check out because I don't know how it's going to work. And describing it, like I heard you talking about it on Platinum Explosion on Tuesday, like it's impossible to convey gameplay, really.
Yeah. You can do your best, and that's something. I mean, it is one of those games where it's like I'd watched trailers, I'd seen screenshots, I'd heard the developer describe it, I'd heard people on other podcasts describe it, and it was still not until I actually played it that I was like, oh, I understand what this game is now.
Yeah.
But it's just because it is so weird and different, I guess, that you just have to play it to know.
Yeah, and like I'm not a big visual novel guy. Like I usually shy away from those experiences, but Supergiant is a studio that I knew was going to give me some music that I'd love, some art that I love, and a pretty cool story. They've done that with Transistor and with Bastion, I think, and I think they definitely upped the story in this one. That was probably more of it's like kind of 50% of the game, really, if not more.
All right, let's jump into that. So the story... This is a way... All of the SuperGiants games are heavily story-based, although I would say that both Transistor and Bastion, the story is more told a lot through environmental storytelling, reading stuff, and just the voiceover character that's happening. And Transistor has a little bit more proper, like, movie clips, the whatever stuff they have, more so than Bastion actually had. But this game has a lot of story, to the point, of course, because it is like 50%, probably more than 50% of the game is actually a visual novel aspect, which is really weird and something different for them, but it's a lot focused on, well, less so the story, I'd say, and just more so on, like, with the characters.
Yeah,
it's like the story's happening, but it's more about...
Yeah.
It's more about building relationships with the characters and stuff like that. I enjoyed the story to a point. I thought it was okay. I wasn't like heavily invested in the world. I didn't really care that much about the different, like the banished land that we're in and what the hell happened up there. Why are we down here? All that sort of stuff. My investment of it was there was characters I actually liked that I wanted to know more about, their backstories, why they're actually here. Are they actually a good person? Are they a bad person? That sort of thing. But the overall story stuff I didn't care about. Some of the characters I didn't like, and I would find myself like just skipping through their text. Did you do the same, or
more towards the end? But not. There was no one that I completely skipped. I'd kind of read it and go, "Is this important?" No. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, there's the characters who are probably more entertaining and fun. Like Rookie was my guy, the dog with the moustache, and Tizo. The little like Lilo and Stitch looking guy. the imp. He was awesome. So yeah, you definitely build that bond with some of the characters, I think, because there's so much text and experiences together. And you say like you didn't feel invested in the world. I don't know if I was invested, but as I was kind of flying around towards the last mission, I did have that sense of this is a unique environment and world that they've created. I can't think of anything else that has this feel to it. I can't think of anything else with these type of characters. Like, they weren't characters visually that you're like, oh, that's exactly the same as this other fantasy movie or game I've played. And I just felt like they did a really good job of creating that sense of this is something different than what I've seen before.
Yeah, the world's great. It was just
It's empty.
I didn't feel it was it's very empty. It's it doesn't really explore much of the gods stuff to a point where you fully understand the gods that they're praying to, or what that you're doing the rites in front of, and like why they banish people, and what the real, in quote, world's rules and
the
environment and everything actually looks like. Yeah, the Commonwealth. You don't really get a full understanding. And I know that's like part of its mystery, and by the end of the game, like, you're kind of like, oh, I guess there's a reason why they never actually showed it on. It kind of makes sense. But while you're playing it, I was finding myself getting a little bit annoyed, because I'm like, I need to know a little bit more about like the actual Commonwealth, or like what's happening.
But I think that's something where the book was there, and you could go in there and probably read all of that if you could be bothered. And I couldn't be bothered because there was already so much text.
Yeah. I skimmed some of the book, like at the start of the game, and then it was like more pages kept coming. I'm like, I can't be bothered reading all this. It's just like, open it to get it to clear, close it, go back, do something else. So let's actually talk about the gameplay, which is the rights, the actual NBA Jam stuff, which, I mean, I'm not a big fan of. I've played it, like those, like NBA Street Jam, all that sort of stuff. Not huge fans of those sorts of games, but I had a lot of fun doing this. And I think it's like the combination. It is a really well put together gameplay mechanics, mix of different characters that all have different abilities. No one feels the same. You actually feel like you can build a team well, like a 3-part team. You can plan out moves. You can actually pass the quote unquote ball like to here, and then like speed it in with a fast character, or like try and take everyone out. There was actually depth to it, and it never got boring, and it was kind of difficult at points too. And I really enjoyed it. And just when you thought it might get stale, they'd be like, they'd switch up the environments, and they're like, it's not just like a straight and narrow across here. It's like there's holes here to jump over, and there's lava, and there's ice cubes coming down, and all sorts of stuff like that. So, being the NBA fan here, did you enjoy it as much as you'd think you would, or was? Yeah,
like it. It's obviously very different to NBA Jam, and it's almost kind of more like netball, because you can only move one person at a time. And I did like the dynamic of that, and I did like that when you have the ball, you're completely vulnerable. Yeah, and just the strategy of, okay, I've got the orb, I'll throw it in front of me, so now I can attack the people that are coming to get me, and then I'm on the offensive instead of defensive. So there's a lot of strategy in there. When you start to play against the computer with, a lot of the multipliers and the modifiers, the difficulty turned up, it shows you like, wow, there's a lot of stuff you can do that I haven't been doing, a lot of strategies. And like you said, every character having different abilities makes them completely different from each other. And some of those characters I'd hate to use, so I'd neglect them, like especially Jono, the massive like hulking character. She was so slow.
You never used her? I used her every single game.
Oh, really?
The entire game.
I used her when I had to. I used her when I had to like level her up, but no, I just didn't like attacking with it. When I figured her out a bit more, like I said, like you learn the strength. I didn't attack her because
she was my goalie.
Yeah, she's like the defender, and that's what I liked with like the That
was my tactic.
The Voltron, not Voltron, but the wooden dude. Like using him as a defensive tactic, because he can throw out a little station. Yeah, and that worked really well towards the end of the game. But
it is funny though how you like hated her, but I used her to like hold on. Like to prove like our team mechanics must have been so different.
I like to have the fast characters. I was probably more attacking than defensive towards.
Did you like use heaps of fast characters? Because I would only ever use one fast character.
I usually have
like 2
one really
or
fast
3.
character, and in between, like Tabitha or whatever her name is, like flying. I liked being able to fly over the enemies and
So my main team was usually big, what's her face? What was her name?
Jodariel.
And then like the dog
Ruki.
or one of the other fast running characters, and then like a flyer or like someone in the middle there. And that was my kind of like, mix it up.
And as you like level them up and unlock more abilities, they become like so much more powerful as well. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And how did you approach the liberations? Because we're talking about these characters and building up a bond with them, and then you have to set them free or choose to set them free. I
set free 2 of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Which was the problem. It made the game harder because it's like I played the game with Rusky. I got rid of him at some point, like Ruki or whatever, the dog. I got rid of him at like a bit over halfway through the game, I think, maybe on the second last or third last ride or something like that, because I'm like, this guy's been doing so much for me this whole game, and I just feel like he needs to get up there. And then there was another character, the other main character I used for ages before I was the main dude you start the game with. I used him for ages before I replaced him with the bird chick. And at some stage, the same thing for him. I'm like, you deserve it, bro. You better go. Like, you just need to.
Yeah.
But it is funny because you could pick like the worst characters that you don't use ever, get rid of them, keep your entire team, the game going. Because but
you can't really, because you have to level them up to get them to be liberated. You can't just liberate anyone. They have to be.
No, you can liberate. So but you could like. Quite often, there was always one character. It would be like, I really like this person, really don't like this person. And then every time I'd look, there'd always be like one random person.
Okay.
Or someone that I could
didn't
get
happen
rid of.
for me, yeah.
Oh, really? It was like the amount of times that the little Lilo and Stitch dude was like up for me.
Tizo.
Even though I barely used him. Tizo, he was
I love
always
Tizo.
up for me. Yeah. So, I mean, it is an interesting mechanic because it like plays on your heartstrings for the story side. But then it's like, if you get rid of your favorite characters that you're really good at, but you really love them, then you're making the game harder, which means you need to learn other characters, but morally you feel obligated to help them out.
And it keeps it interesting because it means you have to get to know these other characters that you might not have gravitated towards originally.
Yeah.
And it is cool.
I mean, it adds replay value too.
Yeah, definitely. Like at the end of the game,
go
no spoilers here, but you can go through all the characters who've been in the game, including the opponents, and see what happened to them after.
Yeah.
And depending on like who you free, the story will be different, and
it also affects the Commonwealth.
Yeah,
from what I gathered. Like, I know it happened to my Commonwealth, depending on who I sent back. And I looked online and I saw, like, there is different variations depending on who you send back to what actually happens in the Commonwealth. So it affects not only this character's stories down where you are, but who you send up will affect the actual real world in the Commonwealth, which is, And
there's been a lot of little details. Like, we said that the world didn't feel full, but that wagon felt full. Like, there was so many little things in there that they put a lot of effort into, and each character had, like, we're talking about kind of the home base. It had a lot of like knickknacks and little objects around the wagon that tell you a little bit more about the characters, and you can interact with them and have little cut scenes. And there's quite a lot of humor in the game, which I enjoyed. And like with their previous games, I mentioned before, the music is one of the best.
I was about to say, the last thing to talk about before wrapping up the review discussion would be the music and the the art style in this game is top of the notch. Like, as soon as I finish the game, like, I send out a tweet straight away. I'm like, where's the vinyl? Like, I need this soundtrack on vinyl. Like, I was looking for it on Spotify. I'm just like, goodness gracious. Like, especially because you enjoy the music throughout the entire game, but my God, watching that end credits song that plays as the credits go, I was like, this is amazing. And it's like, it was like save video, because I wanted to rewatch the credits to have that song with later in case I couldn't find it. Like, it was really, it was just like this weirdly emotional song, like playing and everything like that.
Is it the
and
same one that plays
throughout the game,
as your, like, as the two minstrels are like playing their little song for the flight towards the last mission? Yeah,
but it's just plays while it like goes up through this like the last cutscene or whatever without spoiling it. And I was like, this is great. But all the music in the game is great. All the music that plays in the battles, all the music that plays the thing, all the songs that the dude does during the riots, the send up thingies, they're all great. And the art is unbelievable.
And I think you're
like,
like
hand drawn.
the hand-drawn art is spectacular. The colors are so vivid and great, and they just like there's different areas of the game that all look completely different because of that, and especially where you actually play the rights. But going back to the music just briefly, the scene that I mentioned before where you can like select each character in the game and hear, you know, what happens to them after the game. As you select each character, a different song plays, and it's like each character has a theme.
It has a different song,
Yeah, and it just shows you like the variety of music. And
I remember clicking on the bad dog team and hearing that like
it's like a metal
very
song.
like roof, like yeah, it's like this metal song, and you click on this other people, and it's like very dreary, sad for a different team and stuff like that.
You might be interested, Dylan. There's a podcast called Achievement Oriented, and I think last week they had the composer on. And he talks about composing all the music for all of the Supergiant games, but especially Pyre, and that's a really good listen. You can see the attention to detail that's gone in, and it's really impressive. And that's something that, like, when you're an independent studio, you don't have the money to, you know, make the world like full.
It's not cheap,
but you can make it really just memorable through things like music and art, and that's what they've done.
Yeah.
The Nightwings once again prevailed. 'Twas the will of the 8 scribes which kept their flame alive.
But it's like what they do, like this hand-drawn art. It's not like a cheap, easy way out. Like it's the attention to detail in the world, especially like later in the game when you can kind of travel fully around the world in a special way. It's like as you're just flying around, it's just like this crazy stuff. It's amazing, and it's like I want that art book, I want that soundtrack vinyl, I want it all, and it's really something special. And it ties it all together quite amazingly.
And hashtag every trophy counts. Pretty good trophy list, like pretty easy, but not completely easy. Like there are some challenges in there, but you feel like you've earned the platinum. I
feel like the trophy list kind of, the platinum difficulty depends on your general skill with the game mechanic. Like either you click with it and you're like, fine, I can play this, but it's like I read online of people just being like, oh, I'm really struggling, like I can't do the damn modifiers trophy at all because they mustn't be able to click. It's like how I say I struggle at Resogun because my brain just can't. Like my brain just can't get that game, whereas I suppose some people have the same issue with something like this, and it's going to be like a really hard platinum. But if you get it, pretty easy.
I definitely didn't think I was going to go for it, and then when I saw you had it, I was like, well, if Dylan can do it and he sucks at Resogun, then I can definitely do it. And it was, I won't say it was easy. I definitely struggled with the Titan stars, the modifiers. But I did find a combination that worked towards the end of the game, and I think that's the key.
The only other platinum I got from Supergiant was Bastion, and I'd say this is way easier than Bastion.
Yeah.
Bastion has similar trophies where there's modifiers for doing challenge maps, and they were very, very annoying. My one last note is that if everyone ever calls for this to be ported to Vita, big fan of Vita, of course we all know this, my biggest problem will be the art in this game looks so amazing on like a big TV on your TV. I can't imagine like squishing that all down onto a smaller screen and still being able to keep the great detail.
Yeah, because the sprites are quite small on the screen.
Small, yeah. So that, I mean, might be an issue. Overall, wrapping up, honestly, at the current time, right now, the 10th of August, when we're recording this is very easily on the top of my short list of games of the year at the moment, and it'll probably end up being on my short list for the games of the year to discuss when we reach the end of the year. There's no doubt about it, but there is a lot of good games coming out at the moment. I'm playing Hellblade at the moment, and that's I'm like, oh god, we're amping up, guys. We're getting towards that time of the year. But it's funny how it's this small, it's indie game can just fly out of nowhere, and you play it over a couple of days, and you're like, could be one of the best games of the year.
Yeah,
so
I probably don't have it quite as high. Like Horizon's still the game to beat for me. But it's definitely in the conversation, and it's definitely something that I'll have to have a good hard think about when the year's passed. But yeah, between Persona, Horizon, and Pyre, I can't think of anything else that's jumped out at me this year as much as those three.
Nonetheless, if you haven't checked out Pyre, make sure you do. I highly suggest it once again. If you listen to Platinum Explosion, I highly suggest it again. Same advice is that the game is really hard to understand. I wish there was a demo or like a trial for it. It would make life so much easier. Supergiant, just put out a demo for this. No one's going to be able to send it. But if you just want to chuck money at a screen and trust me and Jono's opinions, we're both suggesting this game, right? Yes?
Yes, and it's only
It's a
$30,
thumbs up.
isn't it?
Yeah, just go for it. And it's an easy platinum, so just commit to it. I highly recommend it. I'm going to give it an editorial choice. I don't know if that's a thing we do, but we're doing it
now. And it's about 14 or 15 hours as well, I think.
Yeah, so you get your money's worth. It's fine. Check it out. Supergiants Pyre. It's really great. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for talking here today, Jono. It's been good.
It's been a pleasure.
I'll be